To install your new Deluxe Polycarbonate greenhouse, the first step is to prepare an appropriate base. It should be firm and level, and for this, we're using solid concrete. The greenhouse we are installing here is the 6ft by 6ft Deluxe Apex model, and will take approximately 6 hours to construct. For this specific greenhouse, you will need an area at least 190 cm by 190 cm square. To construct this greenhouse, you will need an electric screwdriver with a 10mm nut bit, as well as flathead and cross-shaped screwdriver bits. You will also need a tape measure, spirit level, rubber mallet, and a stepladder. This greenhouse requires 2 people for assembly and should only be constructed on a dry, calm day. Make sure to wear protective gloves where possible and take regular breaks. To begin your greenhouse, using your instructions, refer to the parts needed for base assembly and identify the required pieces. Start by aligning 2 of the base sections at a right angle and secure together using the ground spike and 4 bolts and nuts for each corner. Use a 10mm nut socket bit to fasten the corner spike onto the frame. Repeat this for all 4 until you have a square. With the base frame constructed, it is advisable to set these into a concrete base. To do so, dig holes to the length of each corner spike. Ensure your base is in the correct position and square across the angles. Also use a spirit level to ensure the base is level. Fill each hole with quick setting postcrete and add water, mixing within the holes as you go, and follow the instructions on your packet. With the base set in position, you can now work on the greenhouse in a separate area. To construct the door, refer to your instructions for the parts needed and identify the required pieces. Starting with one of the L18A uprights, slide the L17 bottom door frame into the open recess as shown. Attach the L15 frame in the same manner, with the L16B bracing being attached in the same orientation shown. Fix each frame into the L18A upright with 2 screws at each end. A quick tip: to make inserting the glazing easier, use a small brush to apply a thin layer of washing up liquid along each of the framing edges. The panels will slide in quickly and easily. This is not included with the kit, but is highly recommended. Slide the Y11 glazing panels into the framing recesses at the top and bottom of the door. Insert the Y12 panel in between these in the same manner. Secure the panels in place by aligning the second L18A frame on the opposite side, and fix together with 2 screws into each frame. With the door complete, set this aside for later. Our next piece is the roof vents. Use your instructions to identify the required pieces. Start by attaching the lever arm onto one of the L21 frames in the orientation shown. You then need to slip this and the L20 frame over the long edges of the Y10 glazing panel. The L19 side frame should be slipped over the ends of the top and bottom frame to fully encase the glazing. Secure these in place with a Z02 screw through each corner. Repeat this for the second vent and set these aside for later. Using your instructions, refer to the parts needed for the rear wall assembly and identify the required pieces. Position your L08A on the ground. This is going to form the base of your panel. Slide a bolt into the recess of L01A and slide this over the left end of the base frame in the orientation shown. This can then be secured with a nut. Repeat this for the other end with the L01B frame. The corner brackets are orientated to a specific angle to align with the roof. Make sure that the angled corner is at the top of the plate. These can then be aligned over the top of each upright and held in place loosely with bolts. Slide a bolt into the end of the left central L02C upright and slip the bolt through the hole in the base frame. Repeat this for the L02D frame too. Slot 4 bolts into the recess of each central upright. Align the L05A bracing over the bolts in the angle plate and down to the L02C bolt. Secure each end with an MO1 nut and repeat this for the opposite side. The L09 crossbar can now be secured in place by aligning the bolts as shown and securing it to each angle plate at the ends. Use the previously inserted bolts to align the small crossbar at an equal distance and secure with nuts. Use some more of the washing up liquid to lubricate the framing, ready for the glazing. The glazing can now be installed. Slide each Y2 panel down into the channels until they reach the bottom of the panel. Slip 2 bolts into each LO3B frame. Position these behind the LO9 frame, aligning the bolts with the pre-cut grooves and securing them with nuts. Insert glazing panels Y1, 3 and 4 into the framing grooves. Slot 5 bolts into the groove of each LO1C frame. Align the right LO1C under the angled plate, with 2 bolts secured loosely through the holes. The central bolt needs to line up with the LO2C upright. Use a WO4 plate to join the 2 bolts together as shown and secure loosely with nuts. Repeat this for the other side. The 2 LO1 frames should butt up against each other at the apex. Place the WO1 plate over the 4 bolts and secure tightly with nuts. You should then check all the other bolts are aligned correctly and secure them tightly too. Using your instructions, refer to the parts needed for front wall assembly and identify the required pieces. Lay out the L10 bottom frame and slide an LO1A within one end in the orientation shown. Slide a bolt into the recess of the upright and secure through the bottom frame with a nut. Repeat this for the other side with LO1B. Attach the angled plates and central LO4 uprights in the same method as the previous panel. Slip another bolt into the groove of each LO4 upright. Align the LO5B bracing over the bolts in the angled plate and across to the LO4A bolt. Secure each end with an MO1 nut and repeat this for the opposite side. Align the LO5A bracing over the bolts in the angled plate, securing with a nut at each end. Repeat this for the opposite side. Remember to apply some washing up liquid to the framing. You can now insert the Y2 glazing panels into each recess. Secure the glazing by sliding parts LO3B and C over the top of the glazing panels, and securing into the cutouts of each LO5B frame. You can now slide glazing panel Y1 into the left recess, and Y4 into the right. Slot an additional 2 bolts into the end of each LO4 upright. Slot 4 bolts into the groove of each LO1D and E frame. Align the left LO1D under the angled plate, with 2 bolts secured loosely through the holes, and repeat this for the opposite side. The 2 LO1 frames should butt up against each other at the apex. Place the WO1 plate over the 4 bolts and secure tightly with nuts. Use a WO3 plate over the 2 bolts. The plate should fit snugly into the groove of the LO1D frame as shown. Repeat this for the other side. Slide glazing panel Y5 into the apex channel. Then slot 4 SO1 bolts into the groove of the LO3A frame. Secure the L03A over the Y5 frame, putting the bolts through the holes in the WO3 plates and securing with nuts. Slide the 2 longer S02 bolts into the recess of the long L14 frame. Place this behind the LO3A frame, flush with the right hand side edge, and aligning the inserted bolts with the remaining holes in the W03 plates. This will extend out to the side and serve as the runner for the greenhouse door. Using your instructions, refer to the parts needed for the side and roof assembly, and identify the required pieces. Slide a bolt into the bottom left groove of your back panel, and fix an LO8B frame in place with a nut. Slip a nut into the top of the rear frame upright as shown, and attach an LO7 frame. The angled lip should slide in flush with the frame. Lubricate the frame before inserting a Y6 glazing panel into the grooves between the LO7 and LO8B. Slot 3 SO1 bolts into an LO2A framing piece, before sliding this in to brace the Y6 panel. Secure each bolt in the pre-cut grooves with a nut. The third bolt will be used for bracing later. Repeat this for all 3 panels on both sides, making sure to insert 3 bolts into every LO2A frame. You can now attach the front panel with bolts into the upright frame on each side as shown. To brace your panels, diagonally attach the LO5C frame, using the previously inserted bolts. The holes will need to share the bolts used by the existing framing. Repeat this for all 4 brace frames. Slide a bolt into the top of each LO1 eaves frame, and slot the LO6 ridge bar into each end of the greenhouse. Secure it in place on each side with the inserted bolts and nuts as shown. Insert 5 SO1 bolts into each LO2B frame. The extra bolts will be needed for bracing in the roof vent later. Slide a Y7 glazing panel in so that it slots into the roof frame as shown. Attach an LO2B roofing frame to the edge of the glazing, aligning the end bolts with the pre-cut frame and ridge holes. Repeat this for the front panel, leaving a gap in the middle. Slot the previously assembled roof window into the ridge bar in the orientation shown. Space the previously inserted bolts so that they are equally apart. Insert 4 bolts into an LO3B framing piece, and align an LO2B plate over each end. The W08 bracket needs to go over the 2 central bolts, securing it in place with nuts in the centre of the frame. Align the L03B between the 2 eaves frames, using an LO2B plate to loosely attach them on each side as shown to the middle bolt. Slide the L03B piece up within the frame, so you can securely insert the Y9 glazing panel. You may need to gently bend the panel to pop it into the extrusion. Slide the L03B piece down over the Y9 panel and then secure the bolts at each end. Repeat this process for the other side of the roof. The eaves supports makes use of the extra bolts in the eaves frames and side uprights. Move the bolts into position until the L05F frames are flush at both ends, and secure with nuts. Repeat this for all 4 eaves supports. Secure the L05E apex bracing in the same manner, using the final eaves frame bolts to ensure the bracing is flush. As before with the side bracing, use the L05D framing to diagonally brace the roof panels as shown, using the previously inserted bolts. Slide the door onto the runners, inserting the bottom edge into the frame. Place the J03L and R plastic caps over each end of the door runner, securing in place with a Z03 screw. The J01 apex caps need to be aligned with the end of the ridge bar. Use a rubber mallet to tap these in position if needed. The J02 L and R corner caps slip onto each corner of the greenhouse. Measure the space between each framing upright. Cut pieces of J04 stripping to size and insert into the horizontal channels around the entire building. You can now place your greenhouse onto the base you built earlier. Lift the greenhouse into position on top of your base. You then need to loosen the bottom bolts around the entire frame. Slip a W05 clip under the base frame and over the bolt before re-securing with the nut. Repeat this around the entire base perimeter. Your greenhouse is now complete.